You know, there are some stories of survival that are just so extreme, they sound fake. They really test what you think is possible. We're talking about people pushed to the absolute edge, who stared death right in the face and just refused to give in. This is a look at what happens when the will to live is the only thing you have left.
I mean, we've all probably wondered about it, right? If you stripped everything away, no tools, no shelter, maybe not even a shred of hope, what are we actually capable of? Just how far can the human body and the human spirit be pushed before they finally break?
So we're going to dive into 3 unbelievable accounts. We've got a frontiersman who was literally hunted like an animal, a doctor who was forced to make an impossible choice, and a teenager who, get this, fell out of the sky. And these aren't just myths or campfire tales. This stuff is documented history.
Okay, so our first story takes us to the raw, completely unforgiving American West. The year is 1809, and our guy is John Colter. Now, this is a seasoned frontiersman. He was even part of the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition, so he knows his way around the wilderness. Colter and his buddy are out trapping beavers on Montana's Jefferson River. This is really dangerous work. They're deep in the territory of the Blackfeet tribes, who've made it crystal clear that trappers are not welcome. Colter already knew this firsthand from a previous run-in that left him with an arrow wound.
And then, while they're just paddling along in their canoe, their worst nightmare comes true. Hundreds of Blackfeet warriors just appear on the riverbank. They're captured instantly. Colter is stripped completely naked, everything taken from him. His friend, Potts, completely panics, shoots one of the warriors, and is immediately just riddled with arrows. He's gone. Colter is just standing there, naked, totally defenseless, assuming he's next. But then, something weird happens. The chief points to the open prairie and basically tells him to run. For just a split second, he must have thought, wait, are they letting me go? But as he takes off sprinting, he hears these war cries erupt behind him. And the horrifying truth hits him. This wasn't mercy. This was a hunt. And he was the prey.
So he's running for his life, totally naked. His feet are getting torn to shreds by the terrain, and he's pushing himself so hard his nose starts bleeding. He actually outruns most of them, but one warrior catches up. Colter spins around, somehow manages to get a hold of the man's spear and kills him with it. Then he dives into a freezing cold river, hiding for hours under a beaver lodge while the warriors search for him, before he finally slips away in the middle of the night.
And you'd think that's the end of it, right? Nope, not even close. His ordeal was just beginning. For the next 11 days, with nothing but a blanket he managed to steal, Colter walked. He traveled 300 miles through some of the harshest wilderness you can imagine, living off of roots and berries until he finally staggered into a trading fort, barely looking human, but somehow he was alive.
So, Colter's battle was against other people and the raw wilderness. But what happens when the enemy isn't outside? What if the mortal threat is coming from inside your own body, a threat you can't outrun, from which there is absolutely nowhere to hide?
Okay, for this, meet Leonid Rogozov. The year is 1961, and this 26-year-old Soviet surgeon has just started a new job at maybe the most remote place on the entire planet, an Antarctic research station. And here's the kicker. He is the only doctor for the whole crew.
Well, wouldn't you know it, not long after he gets there, Rogozov gets acute appendicitis. He's a surgeon. He knows exactly what this means. If that appendix bursts, he's dead. Simple as that. The problem? The nearest doctor's over 1,000 miles away, and a massive blizzard is raging outside, which makes any kind of rescue or evacuation completely impossible.
Think about this for a second. The only person on the entire continent of Antarctica who could possibly save his life was him. So he makes a decision that sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie. He grabs 3 of his fellow researchers, a meteorologist and a driver, mind you, with 0 medical training to be his assistants. He hands one of them a syringe of adrenaline and says, if I pass out, inject me with this. And then he prepared to perform his own appendectomy.
The surgery itself was an absolute 2-hour nightmare. He's working in this half-sitting position, using a mirror to try and see what he's doing. At one point, he accidentally slices his own intestine and has to stop and stitch himself back up before he can even continue. He's fighting off waves of nausea. His vision is blurring. He has to take these 30-second breaks every few minutes just to keep from blacking out. But finally, he finds the appendix, removes the diseased organ, and finishes the job.
So, Rogozov literally battled his own body. But what happens when your enemy is just the sheer, random, uncaring power of nature itself? Our final story is, well, it's maybe the most unbelievable of them all. It starts on Christmas Eve 1971 with the 17-year-old girl named Julianne Kopke flying high above the Amazon rainforest.
Her plane, lands of Flight 508, flies straight into a gigantic thunderstorm. The whole aircraft is getting tossed around like a toy. And then there's this massive bang. A wing is on fire. As the plane just plummets into a nosedive and starts to literally tear apart in midair, Julianne's mother turns to her and calmly says those words.
Julianne, still strapped into her row of seats, is just thrown from the disintegrating plane. She falls 10,000 feet. That is nearly 2 miles straight down into the dense Amazon canopy. She blacks out, obviously, and the next morning, she wakes up, alone, and against all possible odds, alive.
I mean, her situation was just grim. She had a broken collarbone, a severe concussion, deep cuts all over, and without her glasses, she was practically blind. Her only supply? A small bag of candy. She was completely, utterly alone in one of the most dangerous places on the entire planet.
But, and this is a huge but, she had one critical advantage. Her parents were zoologists who actually ran a research station in the Amazon. So she had lived there, and she'd learned some basic survival skills. She remembered this simple rule her dad taught her for getting out of the jungle. Find a stream and follow it downstream. It will always, always lead you to a bigger river, and rivers are where you find people.
For 10 grueling days, she walked. She had to deal with infection, with maggots literally burrowing into her arm, and just crippling starvation. On the 4th day, she came across 3 other passengers, still strapped to their seats, dead from the impact. But she kept going, until, on the verge of just giving up, she finally found a small boat and an empty hut.
So, what do these 3 totally different, totally insane ordeals actually tell us? I mean, each story pushed a person way past any reasonable expectation of survival, and each one tested them in a fundamentally different way. Right? You have John Coulter, the frontiersman, who had to outrun and outsmart his human hunters. You have Leonid Rogozov, the doctor, who had to conquer his own body when it turned on him. And then you have Julianne Kopek, the teenager, who had to endure the pure, random indifference of the natural world.
What we're really looking at here are 3 different enemies: man, self, and nature. But it's more than that. It's 3 different kinds of survival. Coulter's was about pure physical power and raw instinct. Rogozov's was a victory of incredible, specialized knowledge and ice-cold logic under insane pressure. And Kopke's? Hers was a testament to learned wisdom and just grueling, day-after-day endurance.
Yeah, their stories are extreme for sure, but they show us this profound capacity for resilience that's probably lying dormant inside all of us. They prove that when you're faced with the truly impossible, the real limit of human survival might just be whatever we decide it is. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What untapped strength is hiding inside of you?